Do not attempt to adjust your podcast player. We are controlling the transmission. We are here to be your guide, helping you to explore local events, the art scene, music, theater, sports, and possibly a conspiracy or two. All here on the GCRX.
Welcome to In the Metro. Tonight, it's just Kim and I.
Hello.
There we go, we're on.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Chuck isn't with us this evening. He has a little bit of a situation with his family, a death in the family that he's taking a little bit of time off. He will be back next week with Nick Drago. And that is a show that
Yeah, Nick's apparently got some really good stuff set up for us.
That's all I've been hearing is just those kind of things.
I know. He's like not giving any details, though. That's what's crazy about it. He's like, Nick's got some good stuff.
But we know that it started.
What good stuff?
It had to start with the presidential debate.
Oh,
because that next morning we were on it.
Oh, I know, but there's so much since then.
I don't even know where we're going to go.
I feel like historical events lately have just been like piling up. You know, you read the history books when you're in school and it's like, oh, this happened. Then, 40 years later, that happened. Like all of our historical events are all happening like within a span of 2 years. Like
it's been crazy.
Nuts.
In the last, what has it been, 4 days, we have this new full moon.
Oh,
have you been watching the moon?
Mm-hmm.
I may be wrong, but I think it's called the buck moon.
I don't know.
And it's the longest lasting moon. It's been like 4 days of a full moon. It's like things are really happening.
I've been watching more YouTube conspiracy theory videos since he's been saying Nick's got a really good show planned for us. And I literally just watched one that's like, yeah, the moon's hollow. And it was artificially constructed and it doesn't make any sense. So, yeah.
I can't even look at the moon without thinking about Nick now.
Yeah.
And Hollywood.
Right. It was all fake. We never landed there. Yeah.
Exactly. So what did you do this weekend, Mr.
I
Bill?
was out of town. We were in the OC River, or on the OC River in Tennessee. We rented a cabin, took the whole family, went out, did some fishing, had a pretty decent time. They had this, it was an Airbnb, and it was like a 4-bedroom house. It was beautiful. Whoever had it, they were realtors, and they had remodeled it, and you could tell they did it specifically for Airbnb. But it was a great time fishing right off the dock, off the back of the house. Like you walk out and there's a deck, and it's a deck/dock, and you just fish right off of the thing and walk back in. We caught rainbow trout. And
how cool! The whole family, or just you and Amy?
The whole family.
Oh, that's cool.
Awesome. Yeah. What about you? What'd you do?
Well, I spent the entire weekend watching probably one of the greatest artists in our area paint on her building.
Oh, yeah. Those look great.
Yes, it does. She painted, well, I guess we can't just say on her building. She painted an entire building like in one day.
Yeah, like there's not much room of just regular paint left out there. It's quite a bit.
And then as she's working on, I think we ended up with 8 murals, 7.5. She still has some to work on. But did you notice the front of the building?
I did not. I didn't come that way today.
Oh my God! Have you noticed it?
I did. I saw the window.
Yeah. She did.
I saw her with the fence yesterday.
The entire front of whatever that building may end up being.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's got some awesome colors in it now.
I'll have to drive out that way. I did not see it.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. So that was my entire weekend. It went by way too fast.
It always does.
Yeah. I was glad to get back to podcast. And tonight with us, we have Sara DeCourcy from Level 1 Up Arcade on Metering House. How long have you been in business?
Our first day was October 6th. So the night of the Nightmare on Metering House parade was our first day open.
Oh, how cool was that?
It was awesome. It was a really great event. I was super excited.
Well, you're going to blink, and it's going to be that time again.
I know. Brenda asked me to help out with the parade again this year, and I'm like, okay. I already have plans, and the kids are ready to get costumes together, and it's going to be madness. At least I'm hoping it'll be madness.
It will be. It absolutely will be. What made you decide to open an arcade?
It was an accident, and I opened my big mouth. That's what happened.
Those are the best kind of accidents, though.
It was. So the conversation started when that $2 billion lottery was out.
The big lottery, yeah.
Yeah, and what would you do with all that money? And I'm like, I don't know, I love my home, and I feel like I found my little nook in the world, so I don't need anything massive. I'm not interested in moving, so I would pay, you know, my bills and your bills and your bills, and you know, and then what do you do with the rest of it? So then I thought I would want to create something of value for my community. What don't we have? And I thought about when I was a kid and where I felt like I had created a community without even putting in much effort was standing in the bowling alleys playing arcade games.
Oh my gosh.
And I made more friends just doing that. And I wasn't even good at it. I was never good at it.
I forget about the bowling alleys.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of a thing of the past for us in Granite. So was your parents on a bowling team? Were you on a bowling team? Is
My
that
grandparents.
Your grandparents.
So we would go and hang out with them on Friday nights in Bowland. And then my grandma worked for Henry Ross Construction. So she would come down and give me a little bit of money to play at Granite Bowl too. So I got to do both.
Oh, that's awesome.
Not very often, but on occasion I got to.
And you just brought back a visual memory. I too just all of a sudden remembered exactly where the arcades were even at the Granite City Bowl.
Oh yeah, I can remember the smell of that weird spray that was right there at that counter.
And the little cafe in the back.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So that's kind of where you remembered those things.
Yeah, I remembered those things, and I remembered that they were always packed. They never had to be really freshened up very often. You know, there were just a handful of games just haphazardly thrown in there, like here's something to do. But the kids were just flocking.
It was the best of times.
It was great. It was absolutely great. So that's what, well, maybe I can throw together something like that. And then it just started to come together a little bit by a little bit, and now I'm like really excited and learning how to do things that I never thought I would learn how to do.
Do you play the games yourself?
I do. I started doing TikToks on actually playing through some of the games, and the last one when I did Burger Time was just obnoxious.
I watched that one, yeah.
I'm telling you, it's the sausage. It's freaking me out.
I wasn't really good at was pinball. I loved pinball. I figured you couldn't go wrong with the flappers.
Yeah.
You know, so you're going to make some score. You're going to get something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but my siblings were crazy about Pac-Man, Frogger. I loved Frogger. I do remember that one.
Yeah, Frogger was good.
Yeah, what was your favorite game, or do you remember?
Donkey Kong.
Oh my gosh, yes. Wow.
And then Pac-Man, and yeah.
What a neat time that was.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that we have had an arcade in Granite in years.
No, it's been a very long time. There were a couple that came in and really tried to give it a go, but it really just didn't pick up, and I'm hanging in there, and it's
Are you experiencing that yourself at the moment?
where
They're just not beating down the door yet.
there's definitely that. I mean, there's a part of it where I'm really very excited and humbled at the same time, and that on the Metro East side, it seems like towns can only support one arcade. We can't really do more than one. Whether it's focused on pinball or focused on the retro games, only one. And I'm the one, and that's really awesome, but it's terrifying too. So like, God, I'm the one, and it's not. I'm not super busy, so what do I do? And you know, it picks up. It is picking up, and there are some people that are really excited about it. And there's somebody coming in today who put in some digital billboards for me inside to help with advertising for our neighbors. Mm-hmm. And he saw the Nintendo in there and just sat down and started playing. He played it for about 20 minutes, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'll turn it on for you, sure.
Well, how cool. So what all do you have besides, you have your games, snacks, drinks?
There are snacks.
You partnered up with Jerry's.
I did, yes. So now that the pizza place is closed, we don't really have a direct connection to food, and that was a challenge for families to come in. And we would rather have, and that was part of the market research that I was doing earlier in the spring. What keeps you from coming? And it was, I would stop in at an arcade if it was around what I was already doing, if we were going out to dinner. Well, a lot of our restaurants are closing early. So when I'm there at 7, 8 o'clock at night, there's not really a whole lot keeping them there. So John and I started talking, and he's, well, if we had a way to communicate between the two of us, well, we text, we're talking now. So then he came up with the package. He just dropped it by, and he said, let's do a live real quick. I'm like, okay, let's go. And I think it'll do really well. And I don't mind cleaning up the mess. I don't mind any of those things. If you want to stop in with your fast food, that's totally fine with me. Whatever it is that's going to keep you there and spend time with your family.
I think you're in a great spot.
Oh, yeah.
You're right there by the cinema, and that's total exposure. You're right next to JJ's that everybody, that smell of JJ's.
Gosh, man.
Just
it's intoxicating.
Yes. And then
I've said it to him a handful of times that I have a weight problem and it's all his fault. And he just said, I know.
I know.
I love him. He is so nice. And then you're right there at the Speakeasy.
Mm-hmm.
So in an ideal world, I love the downtown area, and I feel completely safe down here.
Yeah.
I love the atmosphere that's down here. I would have no problem having my grandchildren at the arcade while I was visiting the Speakeasy,
Oh, yeah.
whether it was inside or outside watching the movies.
Absolutely.
And then you got the downtown diner right down the street that's open till 8 p.m.
Yeah.
There's a lot, and you're right across from. Well, I can't say the best park because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings with Wilson Park, but you have a very active.
It is a very
active park.
There's a lot there. With
Yeah.
The art installations there, and then the lights. It's gorgeous in there.
It is, and now you're going to have the neon sign light right around the corner from you.
And that is really turning out so nice.
Yeah, that is August the 1st lighting ceremony.
Ooh, cool.
It is from 6 to 8. We're going to light at 7, I do believe, but I think it's from 6 to 8. And it's not just the lighting ceremony. There's going to be some cars, classic cars. There's going to be some food trucks. There's going to be a band, some dignitaries.
That's going to be so cool.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So is your family involved with you in the arcade?
They're there all the time. So when the first game delivery came, it didn't go well. So the feet for the games actually slipped into the slats of the pallets that they arrived on, and I couldn't get them out. So my niece, who is just, you give Lily anything physical to do, she's just going to knock it out. It's just going to happen. So between her and my kids and their friends, and their friends come in and help me out all the time. They help me lift those up off the pallets and get them all set up. We're building the skee ball games together. They hauled in the Mortal Kombat 2 machine. That was a donation from the Moose Lodge.
Nice.
Oh, very
So they
cool.
went and picked it up for me and hauled it into a little single cab truck and hauled it over. I'm like, thanks, guys. Please don't ever sell your truck.
Right. We need it.
I need your truck.
How old are your kids?
My daughter is 19 and my son will be 15 at the end of the summer.
Oh, so especially the 15-year-old. He's in his own element right there then.
Yeah.
How many machines has he got top player on?
All of them. He was the first one to have the top player on Donkey Kong, and he really upset Bob next door. So he knocked him out at Donkey Kong, and then again over on Defender, and that was a hard day.
That's funny. I can see Bob too. Can you not?
Yep.
Well, very cool. What do you? I guess fall's coming.
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna blink and summer's gonna be completely over.
I know.
I'm
I feel like
already
it already has.
I know.
We're getting ready for school to start again.
School
and-
supplies and school registration art. It's like
Yeah,
we're not even in August yet.
we've got band camp coming up too. So that and hockey warm ups, and we're already ramping.
Summer was not long enough.
No, but for an arcade, I think that's such an indoor thing that your season may be coming.
Fall was really good. Fall was great. Even the beginning parts of winter was really great. It those super hot days,
Mhm.
those were nice too. Just to get that reprieve. And as sad as it was that we had a delay in the pool opening, that was kind of nice for me. So
Oh, sure, absolutely. That's just helping each other out.
it was, yes. I'm glad to entertain the kids first.
Tell us about your packages. I know you do parties.
Yes. So the space rental for the parties, it starts at $200, and that covers the entire space. I will close completely to the public. You can bring in whatever food you want, whatever beverages you want, and it covers 10 players for 2 hours. And from there, it will go up to 15 players for 3 hours for $250, and then it'll jump from there. It's
Very
all-
reasonable.
Oh yeah.
And it's, like I said, whatever you need to make the party a success for you. And I tried to think about putting together parties for my own kids. You know, I've been a single mom pretty much the whole time I've been a mom. You know, so running around putting together parties for them. What did I need? What did I forget? I always forgot something, and it was usually Amy that bailed me out. Because she's amazing. But the cupcakes. Okay, so you forgot the cupcakes. Totally fine. I'll just call Kim. So getting a hold of Kim at Sweet Treats from the Heart, and we now have a partnership as well. So that's a part of the party package that you can add on.
Oh, how
So
cool.
we'll have them delivered if you want them. If you want catering from Jerry's, I can do that. That's fine. Order in barbecue from next door. That's even better. Because I will probably sneak some of it. But it's really whatever it is that you need. I'm willing to start working on that and building on that. And we just had a new business that opened, and I feel so bad. I can't think of the name, but she came in. She puts together printing on party packages. So your little snack bags, if you want a brand on it, or party favors, she handles all those things. So now we have somebody for that too. If we wanted to add more onto it and just take more off of your shoulders, then
Absolutely. And that's so cool because, like, I know that when our kids were growing up, we would rent out little, and I'm not going to name any business names, but we would rent out little spaces, and it was like
I went to
nothing.
a few of them,
It's a nice room, and it wasn't even in town. It's a sports complex, but they had
It was
rooms.
not close to the public either.
No, not close to the public. You're in there with a bunch of other people, and there's nothing for the kids to do. Like, yeah, it's a cute little room, and they can kind of walk around, and you bring your drinks that are actually most of the time it was you buy a pitcher of whatever from them, and you get
No ice.
junky pizza. Yeah, no ice. And there's
Yep.
like,
No
okay,
ice.
we're all here. Let's do the presents, and everybody, but there's nothing to do. There's no arcade machines, and
Right.
they may have had a claw machine out there, and like the one in Edwardsville had a neat little gym thing that they could climb around in. But it wasn't like, and like you said, it wasn't close to the public. It was everybody and their brother there, and you got to watch the kids.
That was another really big feedback that I've gotten, how nice it was for adults who didn't want to be in all the noise. They could sit up front where I'm at and talk, and the littles are running.
Yep.
I mean, they're just running the space, and they don't have to worry about them being in a larger place and losing track of them. We're splitting your time between the older kids and the little kids, because the little kids are a little more, they bounce between the games faster. Who do you spend your time on?
Right.
You can take a step back and just let them be.
Well, yeah, your space, like, there's only one way for them to escape, and you can see it, so it's kind of cool. It's kinda like, no, get back in there.
We've had a runner, but he was caught quickly. quickly.
I happened to witness that one of all days, and he was moving fast.
He was.
I couldn't believe how quick that little boy was gone. Yeah, but that's just one and done. Don't worry about that one.
Well, his family knew it too.
Yes,
They knew it. So I saw the dad go, runner, and out he goes.
Just happened to be out on the sidewalk. I don't even know what I was doing. And there it happened right there.
Crazy.
Oh. Well, I'm so happy for you, and I hope that it just ends up being your dream. Yeah. And can we talk about your garden? Let's talk about your garden. She has this garden
Mm-hmm.
that she posts pictures of the things that she picks, and you just must have a green thumb, right? I mean, because my garden doesn't look like that. You're even drying out herbs. I saw you tying.
Oh yeah, in the video. So that was a little bit of oregano that just sprouted. I have no idea where it came from. It just showed up, and it went out of control. So I was going to tie it up and give it away to people in my networking groups, and I can't get rid of it. It just keeps getting bigger. Because the more you clip it, the bigger it expands. This thing's massive. I don't know where it came from.
You got a rogue seed.
Yeah, I guess. And the squirrels, every year I stress about the tomatoes.
Mhm.
Every year I start the seeds inside, put them outside, and they look spindly and pathetic and ridiculous, and they just don't look like they're going to make it at all. And they start to really hang on, and all of a sudden there's like 30 volunteer tomato plants because the squirrels took care of it for me, but I don't know what variety they are, or even if they came from my house. I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's not me, it's the squirrels.
No, the squirrels are weird because one year we got fence corn, and by fence corn I mean we had a raised bed garden that we put together. We built it and filled it. It's on the other side over here, and we feed the birds and everything. But these squirrels, I guess, acquired corn from somewhere because I didn't plant corn, and they would run off along the fence and drop it, and we had corn that grew up there, and
it was in the wild bird seed.
it had to be,
mixes.
and it literally sprouted cobs. It was like this Indian corn or something or whatever. But I left it because they would then pick and eat it and leave my garden alone.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
There's a lot of farmer tricks about the tomatoes. We have not had anything that works. Every tomato plant we've ever tried, the squirrels
Get it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. My husband will be watching the tomato and go finally picking like it's half eaten on the other side.
That's my complaint. Is like you're like, oh yeah, there's one right there, and you go out and there's like a chunk missing. You're like, you son of
Well, my dog is very serious. He takes his squirrel chasing job
got a guard.
very serious.
And then David, it's been about maybe 3 years now, maybe 4 years. He really decided, okay, he's going to beat the squirrels at their own game. He's planned them, had them perfect, put chicken wire. I mean, he was on it.
Built it out.
Yes. So excited. And that's when we found out about tomato worms.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Oh,
The hornworms.
yeah.
They're so gross.
Yeah.
Well, it's sad because they turn into this beautiful moth, and it is such a strong pollinator. We need them because they tear up your plants so fast.
Yeah, well, they got all the tomatoes that year.
Oh,
We didn't even mess with them after that.
I found a handful of them early this season and just snipped off that part of the plant, just chucked it out in the yard, and the birds just. It came after I felt a little bad about it, but then I found all the destruction and I got over it.
Yeah. No. You're getting it.
What are your hours and days at the arcade, and will that change when the seasons change for school?
So, really haven't had a whole lot of luck during the week. People are just so busy with everything else that we've got going on. So I completely get it. Weekends are definitely the thing. But I don't want to completely give up on the Wednesday and Thursday nights because that's when I can offer more times to churches for youth groups or other just groups of kids that don't really have a lot to do or places to go. So it's a perfect opportunity. I can still be open to the public so then they can see these other groups as well, maybe they can find community there too.
That's a good idea.
So we've had a couple of youth groups that have come in and utilized the Thursdays. But then that's also when they usually have a Bible study or something. So there's a bit of a conflict there sometimes. So we have to schedule it out pretty far in advance. And then the Wednesday nights with music in the park across the street, I just like listening to it up here.
I love Wednesday nights in the park. It's a neat atmosphere. We've had some different musicians this year, not our normal, ones that you get used to. Last week was a guy named Tim Campbell, and he did a lot of different music, but he does shows that are Alan Jackson tributes.
Okay.
And he was good. Everything about him was good, and he brought in a nice crowd.
It was cool.
And then that's another nice feature. You're right there, because kids get bored sitting in the.
They do, and we've had a couple of kids that have just come across there, and they're like, "Oh, how long can we stay?" Hey, yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Right.
Well, very cool. What is the one thing that could help boost business? What is not getting out there that is a message that you have, you're just not sure how to get it across?
That's a really good question. There's so much that I'm working on and trying to do. So the digital billboards that I brought into the space today, through working with a couple of our neighbors on, that I think would help to get a solid message out to our neighboring communities of all of the positive changes that have come to the town, because they've happened very quickly. It's happened, within the last 2-3 years.
Yep.
3 years.
Right.
Yeah. And that's not a lot of time for neighboring communities to recognize we have made a significant turnaround.
Yep.
Start coming back. Please start coming back. So even seeing, video of the downtown area, or video of our new spaces coming in, the new businesses as they come in, and letting people know what all we have, other than Facebook. Because Facebook is very limiting, and it boxes us in so closely that if you're not already looking for it, you're not likely to see it.
Right.
So that part would be very helpful, and this is going to expand advertising for the arcade into other communities as well, to hopefully bring them down. So my hope is that I can work together with the community to put together maybe a 1-minute commercial of Granite City. This is what you're missing, and just blips of all of our businesses and people working in the spaces and getting to know us as a community again, and showing everyone from here to Alton and back out who we are.
Right. And I have to commend you on, you have taken on the role yourself of making a list of small businesses. And I know you've put a lot of time and effort, and it's probably been met with frustration at times.
It was a little bit. I've asked neighboring communities, because I didn't want it to just be focused on Granite City proper. There's so much more to Granite City. I mean, our school district takes Mitchell and Pontoon Beach. Why are we not including all of these other businesses on a lot of other things that we're doing?
And you have talked about in the past, I don't know so much if you were, when you were talking about ways of advertising, necessarily an actual newspaper or a flyer or something that could be passed out at events and things. I just thought that was so forward thinking. And we do have, this is a town that's got some big names for sports. And when you can't help but, especially just picking one out because I'm a boy mom, when we have wrestling meets in Granite City, they're parked.
It's packed.
You can't find a parking spot.
My daughter's boyfriend wrestles, and they went to a lot of their wrestling meets, and she said she had a hard time finding parking. And your son was wrestling, wasn't he?
Yeah, those are all day long.
Oh yeah.
And you can get there at 6 a.m. for the weigh-ins, and you're still there at 7, 8 o'clock at
God
night.
They have concessions.
Yes, but and then during these,
parents.
Yes.
exactly. Thank you. with these tournaments that last a couple days, it's important to get places like your business out there, something for them to do in the evening.
Yes, and that too. When you have people that are traveling all over the state coming this way, what they're Googling is what is there to do in St. Louis, and that's taking them across the river,
Right.
them and their money.
Exactly.
So if we had, and that's what got me to creating the quick directory with the QR code at the school district and all of their events, was now they can see that this is what Granite City has to offer. Just scan it real quick, and everything is right there. All of our local restaurants and event spaces, as well as our shops, the local owned, are listed first.
Well, if no one else has told you how appreciative they are, I am. And as a one-termer alderman, I am extremely happy that you took that on. And that was, when you were first talking about it, I thought that is such a task because it's ever changing. And you're always going to be chasing that list. And you took it on, and it's there.
Once you get it, though, once you get it started, all it takes is a conversation with Jenna, and you have your updated list. It's super fast. She'll print it for you. She sent it to me in an email. It was
appreciated.
And it was just a day where it was a wintertime day. We were dead. I had nothing to do. Might as well start solving my own problem. And that's where I just get into things. I just do things.
And it's not just benefiting her. I mean, I think that's the thing that got me on that, was that you put in all this work and you were dedicated to the research and doing it, making it happen. And it wasn't just for your benefit. It was a beneficial for everyone. And that can't be overlooked or unthanked.
Well, we're not going to come up as a town. Granite City is not going to rise up unless we all come up together. Amen. All of us, everyone.
Amen.
And it's a pretty neat town.
It is.
And it's growing. And I think that in the next couple years, and it's going to take a couple more years, we're really going to see, for me, looking at the growth, you can see the corner. You know, we're almost at the corner. And another year and a half, we're going to turn that corner. And it's just going to open up.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And even just the history that we have here is incredible. It's absolutely amazing. Everything starting with Lincoln Place.
Which is a story all by itself.
Oh, yeah.
And I love hearing the guys talk about it, the women talk about it, the generations. We talked about a little bit about Lincoln Place before the show started. That story is just so rich.
It is. And I never had the opportunity to live in Lincoln Place, but that's where my family started. So I'm just the third generation here in the United States. And it started in Lincoln Place.
Oh, that's so cool, isn't it?
That is awesome.
So cool. Well, thank you for spending a half hour with us.
Thank you.
Anything you'd like to say? You want to throw out your address? Anything?
Yeah. So Level Up is an arcade. I know that there's been a little bit of confusion and not knowing quite what that space is. It just says Level Up on the front. It is an arcade. It is open for everyone to come in. You can play by the half hour or the hour. It's up to you. And we're at 1314 Meadring House.
And it's a neat place that whether you're in there with your family or you go on a date.
Oh, yeah.
Or just hanging
Got a lot
out
of
with
fun
the
dates
bros.
Yep.
It's a neat place to go. Thank you very much for spending time with us. And keep us updated and anything we can do to help you. We're always looking for something to put on our wall. So
Yes.
Definitely.
send us a flyer and we'll throw it up there.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And next up, we have Curtains Up from Collinsville. And they are a theater company. I don't know how many years that they have been in the theater, but it seems pretty rich also.
Yep.
And I think the play that they have coming up, or maybe it's called a musical, is the Joseph.
Oh, okay.
I've seen that at the Fox. I've seen it in a community theater. It never disappoints wherever you see it at.
Are they coming in?
Hi, come on
they are
in.
coming in.
I'm gonna hang out over here.
Doing
Just-
some shuffling here,
Just
guys.
come on in, guys. Get a chair, get an arm.
We'll try to.
Cozy.
And once you introduce yourself, we'll start right here.
Sure. My name is Megan Round. I'm one of the cast members in the show.
My name is Steve Schinninger. I'm the music director of the
Okay.
show.
Hi, I'm Nancy Sullivan. I'm also a cast member in the show.
I'm Caleb Callahan. I'm playing Joseph.
I was waiting for that. It's lovely to have you all here.
Thank you.
I am a big fan of the theater, school theater. I love the Fox. I love the community theater. Recently have ventured outside of Granite City and got to see a few things in different communities. And of course, my love is al fresco.
Mhm.
And I think you have
Very active here. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little about your company.
Curtains Up Theater Company is basically based out of Edwardsville. We got an online site. It's curtainsuptheater.com. The theater has been active for a little more than 20 years, I believe. But it's been in the last few years that we've really jumped in, done some big, terrific musicals. Last year's production was The Wizard of Oz, and we garnered several award nominations for the Arts for Life theater community in and around the St. Louis area. We won a couple of those. We were really proud of Carol Hodson, who's our current president on the board for Curtains Up. She won 2 awards for the production with Wizard of Oz. And then the year prior to that, we did School of Rock, and we had a great kid cast for that actually played live on stage.
Oh wow!
As part of the on stage band, and along with our pit orchestra and everything too. And the big thrust with the theater is it's very family oriented. We try to involve not just the adults, but we have a lot of parent-child pairings in the cast as well. My daughter is part of the cast for this show. She was part of the cast for School of Rock. And then one of my sons last year was also part of the cast for Wizard of Oz. So it's very family oriented. We're always excited to put on a production. We do not do a lot of productions across the year because we're very focused on one big production primarily.
Oh, very cool.
And this is the big one. We know our show is going to be the first 2 weekends in August.
Right. And you have 2 days that are matinees.
We do, as a matter of
The
fact.
4th and the 11th
That's
of
correct.
August.
And those are at 2 p.m.
2 p.m. And the 2nd, 3rd, 9th, and 10th is 7:30 p.m.
That's correct.
I'm a matinee person.
Gotcha.
I love theater in the afternoon. When I was a season ticket holder at the Fox, it was the
Love
matinee.
it. Yeah.
You know, there's nothing better than going to spend an afternoon and you feel like you've done an entire day.
I get it.
Right there.
And it's a good time to bring all of your family members along too.
Yes.
Sometimes the late night shows aren't great for the little kids, but this is entertainment for the whole family. And we're excited to be able to put this production on. It's a tried and true production, as you know.
Yes.
We do have a really wonderful cast, great singers, great dancing. Our director, Jeffrey Yap Ellis, is the choreographer for the show, and he has really pushed hard to get everybody singing and dancing at the same time. So, yeah, Megan, talk about it.
It's more difficult than it sounds. Breathing becomes an
Yes,
issue.
it does.
But what I really enjoy about Jeffrey's direction and choreography is I've been dancing since I was 4, and some people in the show have never danced ever, like Steve. But it's challenging whether you're new or experienced. Like there are things that I'm like, oh, I really have to think about how I do this move and still sing pretty while I'm doing it, or Steve will yell at me because he's the musical director as well as 3 characters in the show.
Oh, wow.
So, but it's just nice that, like it brings everybody together. It's not, too easy for people who have done it for a long time or
Right.
too hard for people who are brand new, but it looks awesome.
What
So-
drew you to the Joseph part?
I don't know if I was drawn to that part specifically. I do feel like I connect a lot with Joseph's character, but originally when I auditioned for this production, I just wanted to be some part in the production
Oh,
because
how
I
cool.
loved this company and I loved all the things that Steve talked about how family oriented it is and how well they work together. I think some of us just came from the set build, and there was at least probably like 12 or 15 dads of children that were in the production that were
Exactly,
there working.
Step up, show up, and put in some time.
And moms that were there helping move things that they couldn't build and just providing in all different kinds of ways. And it's probably one of the most group oriented communal companies I've worked with. And that was why I auditioned again. I was like, I would like to be any part, if I get to be brother, if I get to be ensemble member, if I get to be Joseph.
Caleb was Scarecrow
Because there
last year for Wizard
I
of Oz
was,
and
yes.
was one of those who received a nomination for his performance,
Oh,
and he did awesome.
congratulations.
So good.
Thank you for the shout out. And that was that's actually a really hard thing because it's such a different character this year from last year. Last year I was playing a very character role. It was character voice, and I had to do a certain voice and a certain walk and do all these sort of acrobatic type things to be a Scarecrow. And then it turns around and it's like, no, you're just like the regular male ingenue of the show, and you just gotta look good, and everyone will parade around you mostly, and then sing your ballad. And it's very different from what I had to do last year. So I honestly wasn't expecting to like just walk into the role or get it because I had been there last year. Because there were some other people who were really talented that were in the audition room that went in for consideration, and I think it could have gone anyway, but it just, I guess I got lucky, which is what I say in theater. I say when people get cast, it's more luck than anything you do in the room because there's so many
Right.
great interpretations of what anyone and everyone can do.
You know, I love stories about how people fall and grow up with how they get into theater. It's always a unique kind of story. For myself, I've always loved the Fox. That was just a girlfriend thing that I did, me and my best friend, forever.
Have you been on stage?
I have not. I don't have that bug. However, I have a boy mom, and my youngest child, he's 25 now, but in high school, just a few years back, he was a wrestler, and his girlfriend was in theater, and she was in her third year of theater. And he was probably one of the shyest kids that were around in Granite City. They didn't have a whole lot to say. He had actually would get out of wrestling practice a little bit earlier than her theater would end, and he would go and sit and wait for her. And it was, I think
He got the bug. He got the bug.
he actually got pulled up on stage.
Yeah.
She was having a little difficult with focusing on her lines, and the producer at the time said, "You don't seem to have a problem talking to your boyfriend. Bring him up." So he goes up in his singlet, and yeah,
I love it.
yeah.
Hilarious.
And I believe the name of the play was The Groomsman, and he picked up the paper and started reading it. Next thing we know, he's got the lead part.
Yes!
Wow,
And
that's awesome.
she did not get the role.
Oh
That's even more epic. Oh my god.
She got beat out by the groomsmen.
The guy that wasn't even trying. That's awesome.
And he got the bug, and he carried through with it all the way through high school. And he did Willy Wonka and Sister Act for Al Fresco. So it's always interesting to me, how do you get that bug when you get it? Is it generational? Do you just show up one day and you're there?
For me, I as a younger kid, it was always in my mind to be a performer, a musician, a vocalist,
Agreed.
not necessarily to be on stage, but that's just what I wanted to do. My parents, a dairy farmer and a housewife with 10 kids, they had no time for anything like that, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe it was just because I didn't want to be milking cows anymore. I got myself involved outside of home. But it is a bug. And once you get into it, and when you start to experience not just the rest of your castmates, But the audience, as you start feeding off of what the energy that's
energy.
happening in
It's
the
absolutely
audience,
about the energy.
we're at a point right now in our rehearsal process that we pretty well know our music, we pretty well know our choreography, we pretty well know the thread of the show, and we've gone through it enough times. The biggest complaint right now that we're getting from Jeffrey, our director, is, guys, where's the enthusiasm?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Energy.
it's starting to feel just a little bit cliche. Tell you what, we get an audience,
Oh,
and
it changes.
it does.
Mhm.
It
And
really
costumes.
does. Costumes too.
Costumes help you get
Yeah.
into those characters,
Yeah.
you know.
And lights.
And
Yeah. And oh man.
Well, and even with us out having an audience yet or any sort of people to react, which they have been trying to do that more in rehearsal because they were like applauding and reacting, our directors were, but me and some people who are in my carpool, because I live in Edwardsville, we were texting the other night and somebody just sent after rehearsal immediately walked out and sent a text and was like, wow, that's like the most organized, well rehearsed production I've been a part of at this point in the game, because we're about to go right to the theater. And we all were talking about earlier, like, I agree, this is one of like one of the most prepared casts I've seen going into a theater, in our opinion at least.
Yeah,
But
and I would agree with that, Caleb. I mean, I've been in the area now for 2 years. I came from Decatur. I was in Decatur for 26 years. I did theater in Decatur for 26 years. And I taught at high school. I was the drama director. And, you know, you always have those days, like the week before you're going on to go on, and you're like, are we even going to make this? and somehow miraculously they pulled together at the last minute. But, and you know, I've worked with community theater. I've worked with high school theater. And this cast, this has been absolutely amazing because, like Caleb said, we're a week and a half out and we're ready to go on.
We need an audience.
And just, I know once we get to the theater next week, we have to deal with the set. We have not been on set yet.
This
per
is one of the
se.
disadvantages of this theater company is we don't have a home,
Oh,
so to speak.
oh.
Yeah.
So
Permanent
we've
residence,
been
yeah.
rehearsing in a rented place, and we have mapped out the size of the stage and the places we need to be on the stage. But
Right.
once we get into the theater and do all the actions, it'll be almost like we're starting over again, because it's just going to feel like chaos for a couple of nights.
It's not a line of tape on the floor.
Yeah.
Or
Correct,
it's a
yeah.
step you have to go up, and you know.
And even with all those things, we do taping out the lines on, you know, like the correct measurements of the set, and trying to work with as many costumes as props as possible and spacing things. As soon as you go into the theater, when you have to move spaces, everything changes, and that's probably the biggest challenge we're going to face.
I think so.
In between
But
now and the,
I think everybody's
in the
confident
production.
it's going to
But
fall into place.
we're so confident. I
We
agree.
are prepared to make that next leap.
Yeah.
How many times have you each of you seen Joseph before you
I've
took
never
it on?
seen it.
Oh,
Oh,
my
gosh,
gosh. Let's see.
You've seen it.
Like 7 or 8
A bunch of
times,
times.
probably.
Have
And
you?
I've directed
I've
it. So,
seen
yeah.
it. I don't think I've ever seen it live. I've only seen recorded productions of it, and I think one of the best ones I saw was the one that they released. That I don't know if it was the film version. It's the version
With Donny Osmond.
Yes.
Yeah.
and
That's the
and they
one I
released it
saw
to
in
quarantine.
Vegas.
Right.
Was Donny Osmond.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's the version that they released during quarantine when they were doing all those like free
Yeah.
on TV musical things.
Oh.
And so my mom was like, "Come watch Joseph." I was like, "Okay." So we sat down and watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, that version came out when I was in high school, and so I grew up watching that one.
Donnie.
Well, yeah, right. Oh, he's so dreamy. But I've seen it. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I've seen it live once that I can remember at the Muni, but I've been in it before at a different community theater. So
Yeah.
I was in it 8
So good.
years ago, I think. So.
Who's been in the company the longest?
I guess that would be me, and it
No,
hasn't been
no,
long.
me.
Has it been
My
you?
first
You
show
did
with
shows
Curtains
with
Up was in
us.
2009.
Nine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before Steve.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
But you have been in a lot of
I've been in a
productions,
lot.
not just with this company,
Yeah.
but she's very.
I go
well
where
versed
there's
with it.
shows.
Yes,
Like I want to
exactly.
do that show,
Yeah.
and then I want to go
And
meet
I
those
s-
people.
I see Nancy the same way too. I didn't realize
Yeah.
you'd only been in the area for 2 years.
Yeah.
But I could see, I mean, the crossover between theaters and things. My daughter did what was it, High School Musical
Yeah,
here in Al
Fresco.
Fresco last
Oh,
December.
Wow. Okay.
So she
And
came
I
up
did-
and had a lead role for that.
Yeah, and I did spam a lot with Alton Little Theater last year.
Yeah.
So
And I've done productions with Looking Glass Theater
Yeah.
in Lebanon.
I've done
Looking
stuff
Glass.
at Looking Glass. I've done stuff with Hard Road and Highland. You just did Madison
Yeah.
County
I
Theater
just did
Company in
Madison County, a
Collinsville.
brand new theater company
Yeah.
in Collinsville. We did Disaster. and it almost felt like it was a disaster because it's a new company. You're still kind of getting used to each other.
Yeah.
But man, come that first night, it's like, wow, I
Yeah.
can't believe we pulled this off.
It's the theater magic.
And then like
It is.
in Decatur, I worked with Richland Community College. I worked with Theater 7, Decatur's Community Theater, which I was on the board for them and worked with them for the longest time. I worked with Midsummer Moon, which is a lot like Curtains Up.
Okay.
And then I worked with, Warrensburg Latham High School and St. Teresa High School and DeLand Weldon High School. So, it's kind of the same thing. Once you get the bug, you go where there's, where you're needed. Really, I think is what it is.
I agree. But Caleb hit the nail on the head. This is family.
Mhm.
It is.
This company in particular feels so much, not just because of the adult relationships, but because of the youth that are in these shows. And we're talking some young kids. So
And they're very good to work with. They've been very focused, attentive.
they really have. Sometimes you have this one or two problem children,
I think that's always with shows with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Never
like
work
herding
with children
cats.
or animals.
Literally, it's bad.
but this production has been really cast well, and everybody has been attentive. I, as music director, I feel challenged because I'm working with people on varying degrees of vocal ability, just like choreographers are working with varying degrees of dance ability, So I relate to this, but the thing is, everybody from day one, when we started rehearsing, was so attentive to what was going on, and they wanted to get everything just right.
That's
And
amazing.
training, it is amazing.
That's amazing. Because I'm in the vocal world too.
Okay.
So I
Yeah, you
completely
get it.
understand, like even getting people to understand their voice parts and where they're supposed to be
Yes.
and why you're not singing the melody.
Right.
Or people
Because
who
you're
can't
not
read music.
Yeah,
That's always
So
fun
you
too.
gotta sit down at the
Yeah.
piano and be like, no, ding, ding, ding,
I've-
this
I've-
note.
I've directed
Yeah.
kids shows where I hand the kid the script and they're 5 years old and they say they can't read it.
They can't
Yeah.
read at
Oh,
all.
And you have to
crap,
work,
I
and you
didn't-
have to work with that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Luckily, we don't
At
have that,
point,
but if we even have problem kids, they haven't showed it yet because
Yeah.
No,
they've
we
all been
really
perfect.
don't have
They've all been
any
perfect
problem in the
angels,
cast.
very attentive, and
Yeah.
it seems like every time they're even in the room with us, they're just absorbing everything we're doing and wanting to do the best because they look up to us. And
I
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
give a shout out to Jennifer Hitt, who
Yes.
has been working with our kids
she's like our child
so
wrangler.
good.
The
She's
child
like, she is the child
Child
wrangler. Yeah, she has been the one who has worked with the kids.
I caught a
most.
specific moment of her at the end of last rehearsal where she was pointing out every single kid and giving them each a specific nuanced compliment of something she thought that they did during
Very
that
good about
production,
that.
and then gave them a little candy or a surprise to encourage them. And was like, "I'm so proud of you today." She is that personable and really cares about the kids and everyone else in the production. She's
And-
one of my favorites.
And I will just say about the kids, like just yesterday at rehearsal, we had, a 10-minute break between acts that we were rehearsing, and the kids were over there. Did you see so-and-so when they were doing this part? And they were doing the dance that the
Mhm.
adults were doing,
They're
even
still
though
talking.
they've
Yeah.
never
They're still
learned
engaged.
They're
those
still
dances.
rehearsing.
They,
They're like sponges.
they are.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, "Hey, how do you do this thing that you guys do in that dance?" And I do. I have one small part in one area where I flip somebody, and they're like, "How did you do that? Flip? That was really good." And I'm like, "Well,
You're like-
you got to be really strong."
You're like, it's very dangerous.
Don't try this at home.
Yeah,
That's right.
do not try at home.
Well, and one of the extra challenges I think with this show, going back to the music, is that Joseph is sung through. There's no dialogue. It's
Yeah.
not like when
Right.
you see a different show that
That's
it's
true.
like
We'd be
we act out this scene and then we sing a song. We start singing at the beginning and an hour and a half later we're still singing.
And we'd be fished out of water without Steve.
Yeah.
Because he's one of the most
Absolutely.
amazing music directors I've ever worked with.
Agree.
But it's been so fun to coach these people up because they're listening, and it's kind of a challenging musical book because there's 3 guy parts, if not more,
Mhm.
3 female parts, if not more, the kids chorus, 2 main leads. I mean, and we're layering 7 to 8 parts all at the same time.
Featured
And
characters.
so, yeah,
What made you pick this show?
that's a really good question. I wasn't part of the process.
It was probably, I think it was Jeffrey.
It was Jeffrey.
Yes,
He's had
I
this
think
one on
that's
his
what they do
list.
with most shows at Curtains Up. They have a director who has a vision and says, "I want to do this show," and they say, "Okay, we'll support you."
I agree.
And I think that's what happened.
Yeah.
Because last year we did Wizard of Oz. Glenn, there was a
Glenn
different.
Saltamacchia
He
was
was
the one.
he was supposed to be our director, but he
Yeah.
had a family emergency, and so Christy had to step in,
Christy Luster. Yeah.
and she did amazingly and put her heart and soul into that show. And
And for last minute prep and coming in
Exactly.
and taking that, oh my gosh.
Mhm.
And Christy is our narrator for
She's
the
the
show.
narrator. She has
Oh,
she has the role of the narrator
She,
in Joseph this
she's
year.
the one who tells the story. Yeah.
And your play will be in Roxana.
Mhm.
Is it that the Nazarene Community Theater? Is that right there on the main street going through?
You got
It sure is.
Yep.
It's right next to the new fire station and police
Yes, I know
station.
exactly where it's at.
Yeah.
That's a neat place.
Daniel Mattison is the manager of that theater, and they have been wonderful for Curtains Up to work with. And
Has
they've done
Curtains
a lot
Up
of
always been a moving company, or did you have a place, or you just been kind of an?
They have done a little bit of moving around. I don't know where they're, like your productions that you were in, where was that?
My first show was You're in Town, and that was at SIU Edwardsville.
Yeah, I
we
think
used
for
the
a
Dunham
while-
Hall Theater, and they used that space for a long
They had
time.
a residency there.
Yeah, but then it becomes difficult because you're working around the theater or the
Mhm.
school productions,
And the music
you know,
department,
and
the
the
theater
music
department.
department and graduations and presentations, and so they use it when they can. But I think the last show there was the first School of Rock.
We did School of Rock, two runs of that. We did it in a
May
a
of
spring.
22,
May of
because I
22.
saw that show, and
And
then
that
I was
was
in it in
That was at
August.
SIUE, and then it went so well and so well received. They said, "Oh, we'd like to do this again," and so we did it again in August, just a couple months later, but moved it
to Roxana.
to Roxana, to the
Oh,
Nazarene
I
Community
didn't
Theater, and that was the
realize
first time we worked in there. Now, Curtains Up has also done Christmas productions, specifically A Christmas Story, the story about Ralphie and the Red Ryder BB
Right.
gun.
Bill,
And
you-
And several of those were done at the Wild in
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Edwardsville.
beautiful theater.
Yes.
And we just haven't been able to find the financing to be able to get back into that theater. It's become
Yeah.
very popular. And so the last time that we did Christmas Story, we did it at Roxana. That was just this past December. And a year and a half ago, we changed up our Christmas show and we did the best, worst Christmas pageant ever.
Mhm.
And that was a really fun production. Again, kids, lots of kids. We're getting these kids involved to play, you know.
And
their
that is so
natural roles and stuff.
important.
It really
You know,
is.
and working with the kids in high school, I know that just has to be, just does something for you when they leave the high school
Absolutely.
and they go
yes.
on to community theater, if
Yes.
not further, of course.
Years ago, when I was teaching at Warrensburg Latham High School, I had two students that we did Anything Goes, and they were in Anything Goes. And then, like 3 years later, the community theater, Theater 7, did the same show, and those two came and auditioned and were in that show with me. So I went from being their director to being a castmate
That's
with them.
awesome.
And it was such an enriching experience for all of us, you know, to you know, they were like, oh, this is how you are when you're part of a cast instead of the director, you know, so they got to know me on a more
It's
personal
different.
level.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it is a totally different experience when they come to like Miss
Yeah.
Sullivan. I'm like, no, you're not Miss Sullivan.
Yeah.
You know? So-
Something cool about the fresco here in our town, Brenda Whitaker, the executive director, she did play sets. She wasn't necessarily
Sure.
on stage, and worked with a lot of the greats through the high school and stuff. And they're just mentors that to this day, they're close friends.
Right.
And as you, some of you may know about the fresco, in our up balcony area, she has something called the Crow Nest.
Mhm.
And it's a crow gallery, not the
Yeah.
nest, the
Yep.
crow gallery. And crow stands for, and I can't tell you because it wasn't my experience what they stand for, but the CROW were the initials of each teacher
Mhm.
in
Oh,
the
that's
arts
cool.
throughout her life that meant
That's a
something
great
to
tribute.
her.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she's had the opportunity to share that with each of them. So it's really important to be a part of that. You know, for my son, I see the other side of it. He went through the whole school. He did some community for Brenda Al Fresco.
Right.
He enrolled in SIUE. He did some things up there.
Mhm.
He's gotten a little older, and his maybe the bug has left him for a little bit, but I don't think so, because every once in a while what was the show we just did?
Yeah, my brain is out.
Yeah, mine too.
Yep.
he was interested in it, and then he's just asked me the other day, well, what's coming up next at Al Fresco? And I said, Legally Blonde. He's like, yeah,
Yeah,
no.
They
no.
just-
There's
The last thing
good
I
parts
saw
of
there was
Blonde.
Sweeney
I did
Todd.
that one.
Sweeney Todd.
I saw
Yes,
that.
That's
yeah.
when
I couldn't remember if there was anything in
No,
between since.
it was Sweeney
Yeah.
Todd, and he's like,
Those are
did
the
you
big
know we're doing Sweeney Todd in Granite City? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that's
You
really
didn't tell
awesome.
me about this? I'm like, I didn't know you wanted to know. So I always have hope that the bug's not gone completely.
Well, one of the guys that actually told me about Curtains Up Theater Company was Vince Ojeda. He and I had gone to high school together in Jerseyville. We did Anything Goes, believe it or not, lots and lots of years ago. As seniors in high school. We'll just put it this way, his kids are now grown. And his kids were involved in Curtains Up, and then I
Yes.
guess he got involved because they had somebody that exited a role, and he stepped in, and then he's like, I haven't done this for like X number of years, and then he became president, and it has gone. Yeah, the company has gone on to.
Oh, wow.
He was the
Yeah.
old man in every production of The Christmas Story. He was Ralphie's father. So he was the one, always the rough guy and fighting the furnace down in the basement all the time. Hilarious.
Yeah.
role.
So then when my husband and I moved back to the area, and I said, I've got to find a new theater family,
Mhm.
and he was like, oh, you've got to come try
Yeah.
this out.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
I have to say, the first night, like we walked into for auditions, and this whole group was like, "Hey, who are you? How are you? What do you do?" And it was very welcoming. And I'm just so happy that I have found this group. And I'm sure as I branch out, I will find other groups that I love equally as well. But
I'm really glad to hear that because I hadn't heard that. That I, as a performer, what I would say a seasoned performer, maybe not so much on stage, but more in music. If you go into a foreign environment,
Mhm.
you'd like to know you're welcomed right away, rather
Oh,
than
yeah.
well, this kind of feels sterile, So hearing that from you, that
Yeah.
it was a welcoming environment, says a lot. Again, about Curtains Up.
Yeah.
That does say a lot because a lot of times you can walk into those and feel like you're in this just unwelcome situation where you're the outsider and they're like, oh, I've never seen you do anything before. Who are you?
Your
Right.
senses are already pretty heightened,
Yeah.
and you can spin.
Yeah.
If nobody talks to you, you think maybe I shouldn't
Oh,
be
yeah.
here.
You're not
Yeah.
part of
Because
the
you know
group.
you're going in to be judged.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's already
And you're sizing up, like, who is this person?
Right.
What is she going to do? And how
Yeah.
do
Oh
I
my gosh,
compare
yeah.
to that? And
Boy, the
Someone else my
imagination,
age. Oh no.
oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a wonderful experience, and I hope that we have a lot of people that will come and see either their first show with Curtains Up, or that'll see their
JosephTickets.com.
show
Yeah.
I
with
keep
Curtains
meaning to
Up.
say this.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to make one of these
Great.
shows.
Yeah.
And I can tell how you guys are a family because I already feel like I am too.
Yeah, of course.
Come
Yeah.
join us.
You'll be looking out and I'll be sitting.
Yeah.
We might even have to embarrass you while you're there.
Nice.
You can have some audience participation,
Yeah,
right?
Why not?
We have audience participation
We do.
Yeah.
participation in the show, so our chances.
Absolutely. It's been a joy listening to you guys. And I love the camaraderie that you have. And I can only imagine that goes throughout the whole company.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
It starts at the top. Carol
Totally
Hodson has been the banner carrier for this company
Yeah,
for so long,
She's one
long
of-
time.
She's one of the founders.
20 plus. I think she is one of the founders. She's currently the president of the board. She's tried to
Not by
try to
choice.
push right now.
Not by choice.
She's tried to push that off to other
Well-
people, but she's the one who carries the banner for the company.
And that's one of the things I find most interesting is we have a whole slew of people, a great large number of people on our board, which I feel is great because the more
Oh,
ideas
yeah.
you have, the more perspectives you have. And even with that large slew of people, there's not a single person that wants to take the helm and say, I want to choose what we're going to do for everybody else. Everyone is saying,
Everybody's
I don't want to
pitching
do
in.
that. I don't
Yeah.
want to take on the specific one presidential role. And I think the past couple times it's been like people have been nominated and told you were nominated, you have to do it.
You're
You know what I
gonna
mean?
do it.
Because they didn't want to. They didn't want to be.
But
the
I wasn't
one
there at the
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, and they didn't want to
Too
be
bad.
the one singular person who had to make all the decisions. They really didn't want to overstep their boundaries. And I
Oh,
feel like
that's
that's a great thought to have
Mhm.
with a large group that you're trying to work communally with.
So it really is from the top down to the bottom, and I love the fact that my kids can get involved with it,
Oh yeah.
and
Mhm.
other people's kids can get involved with it, and the parents who see their kids involved with it are like, man, I really want to help out. They want to get involved.
Well, tonight when Caleb and I were both at the set building
Yes.
before we came, and we were standing there. There were
At the
so many
theater.
people on stage. We're like, "What do you need us to do?"
They
They're
were
like,
like, "Stand
there."
Yeah.
But there were probably like 4 or 5 of our younger cast members that had already hopped in and were helping build set. And a couple of the youngest kids were out in the hallway eating the popcorn because that's the
They have to test it before the show.
I mean, like
Yeah,
a giant
like a
bag of
giant
popcorn. They had like a garbage
And I'm
sack.
like,
all free
what
for
are you
all
guys
in
in
the
charge
popcorn.
of? We're eating the
Yeah, we're
popcorn.
in charge of the popcorn.
Okay.
And everybody has a role when it comes to community theater. Like for my family, we'd never had anybody ever sing, dance,
Right.
No, my family.
memorize, and my kid is one of those kids that he reads the entire script. So at any moment you can pull him anywhere, and he
Yes.
knows where he belongs.
Wow.
That's his thing. He's got to know it all. So our part in supporting, because we know none of that, and nobody wants to see us sing, dance, or any of it, our contribution was, well, immediately we bought up the first 2 rows.
Why not?
Right.
Love it,
And it
yes.
really became a benefactor
Yeah.
for everything, because we were
Yeah.
just so excited, and the enjoyment it brought to us was the excitement that we sent back,
Mhm.
and we just became known as Dawson's family.
That's
Right.
You know,
There you go. Yes.
No matter what's coming up, he's going to have a part in it somewhere, because he's just that kid that's going to memorize every part anyway.
Right.
So whether it's the lead or it's the encore or whatever, he's going to be on it. And his parents and all their friends and grandmas on both
Oh my
sides
gosh, I love it.
taking up that whole
Yeah,
front
that's what you
row.
want. Yep.
Yeah.
And as somebody who's on stage, you love to see people who are connected to you.
Yes.
You see eyes, you see smiles, and you're going, I have to perform well. I had a job and I need to do it well. But you start feeding off of them, and they're feeding off of you,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh.
We just didn't know. He
So
waited
much
so later in life
Sure,
to do
sure.
any of this sort of
Yeah.
It's
thing.
never too late
So
though.
the first night, opening night, we're all there because yes, we bought tickets for
Of
every
course.
single
Yeah.
show, right?
Yeah.
Same seats.
I love it.
Same
I
seats.
What show are you coming to?
No
Everyone.
pressure.
And then at the end of the first show, we see people walking towards the actors on the stage with flowers, and I'm like, oh,
You don't know
They're
that.
big
No.
right back. Ran to Schnucks,
Yeah.
right around the corner, bought every flower.
Where's the closest gas
I'm just
station?
throwing my debit
Pulling out
card
those
out.
big
I'll
roses.
go
That's
back and
awesome.
get it. Flowers for everybody, and we did that every night. And
Oh wow.
they're like, we don't know who you are or who you're connected to, but
But that's
please
okay.
Don't matter.
don't ever leave. So it's really important. And then
Yeah.
becoming friends with Brenda down here, I get to see the other side. That was high school
Yes.
stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And I
Now you
saw
get to see the
how
community.
he went from this wrestler to, well, he still stayed a wrestler, but he was just, now he had the softer side too that I didn't know about.
Mhm.
But getting to see community theater with families and
Yes.
kids and the hard work, I had no clue. All I saw was my kid at home, with a hand in the Dorito bag and,
Yeah.
and reading every single
Right.
line and
You don't
practicing.
see the set building and the
No.
lights and the
Yeah.
sound and the
Costumes
musical preparation
and
and the
the
costumes.
Yeah.
Backstage,
Yeah.
everything that's
It's
happening.
unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
It's a show in itself.
And
It
the people
really
who are
is. There's
doing
a
the
whole-
photography and doing our programs and
The light
the
people.
light
Yes.
people, the
The
sound.
There
lights
is a
and
whole
sound.
choreography that goes on besides what's on the
Yeah.
stage, and it has to be all worked out in
The
plan,
set
too.
builders, yeah.
I did
It's just amazing
I
to
did a
me.
production once in St. Louis. It was Sue's School, and it had like over 125 people in it. And my mom, they needed so many volunteers to help, and they had parents help. My mom was like, "Oh, I can help with like doing the wigs and stuff." And after that show, she was like, "I don't think I can handle that anymore because it's just so much going on and so many things happening at once, and everything's moving so
Yeah.
fast, and there's so much stuff to happen." And she's like, "It's so overwhelming," and I just didn't know that was all that was happening backstage
Yes.
to make this go on, because
Yeah.
you just think that you just see what happens when they walk on in front of the curtains. You know what I mean? You don't see any of that.
It's just amazing the work that goes into it. And I haven't
Very
even looked or asked how much your tickets are, but they're not enough.
Whatever
they are.
Makes you would
Say,
think that.
Yeah,
Megan,
right.
well, Steve has at least 3 costume changes.
Yes.
Oh my
That
gosh.
are gonna be
a few
quick
more
change.
than that.
He's got
Yeah.
3 costume changes in one song.
character,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Megan has a super quick costume
Yeah.
change.
Yeah.
Caleb
very
gets
quick
the
costume
change
change.
on stage.
That's true. You do.
And I
do.
and like most of the rest of us, we walk off one side of the stage, walk behind the set, and come on the other side of the stage in a different costume.
Yeah.
So there's always something going on.
I wish people
backstage.
really understood what all went into it to really appreciate it from every level. Even the last night of the productions over here,
Yes.
we're always stopping in for 'em, and they're all excited and they're sad too. That's the other thing, the sadness that
Oh my
happens
gosh.
on the last show.
Especially those seniors that are doing their last show.
And then you hear the director scream, "Strike the set!"
Yeah.
You're like,
Yes.
what? Wait a minute, we're taking it down now.
Tear it down.
Yeah.
It's over.
That's
Gotta move
the
on to the
cathartic
next one.
moment. Yes,
Take it down.
exactly.
When one of the school districts I worked for, we got to leave the set up all summer because that year was the year that COVID hit. So we performed our show Friday and Saturday, and then the school was shut down on Monday, and we were gone for COVID. And the principal came to me and he said, "When are you going to take that set down?" I have no idea, because normally we have all the kids and all the
Yep.
parents, and nobody could come to school. And so at one point they were like, "We would really like to have a graduation, for these kids."
Just use the set.
Yeah,
Well,
use the
Yeah.
set.
Basically, we ended up covering
Space
the
people
set
out
with
across the
curtains.
set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and having people in front of it, but
Wow.
because we couldn't get the set down.
And
Yes, there's just so much.
in our high school, our incentive to help strike the set was you don't get your honors points for the Theater Honor Society
Oh, that's
for doing that show.
That's a
If you
good
don't
one.
show up to the strike, help the set. Help strike the set.
Yeah,
At the
there's-
middle school I
You
directed,
didn't
we
show
just tell
up.
them we're not going to put you in the next show.
Yeah.
You have to help out.
It is part of the process.
Yeah,
If
you
you're
have
going to
to
help
learn.
build the show, you got to tear
Yeah.
it back down.
Well, I guess at our theater, we just don't let them leave.
Right. Good chains on the door.
The doors.
Like,
let
no.
every-
Here's
Been
the
trapped.
hammer and here's the power tool.
Yeah.
Get to it.
yeah.
Yeah, it was free to get in, but we didn't tell you how much.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Putting is on the spot.
Yeah.
Well, 3 of you will get a second to think about it. What's the most favorite role you've ever had in any play?
Ooh.
I have a handful.
You only can pick one.
I can only pick one. Probably Mary Poppins.
Really?
Yeah, that was Mary
Okay.
Poppins and Mary Poppins. That was a dream role.
You?
I was Miss Trunchbull in Matilda.
I was in his class. He was scary.
It had been 28 years since I had been on theater stage. I've been a performer most all my adult life as a vocalist, band leader, or musician. But my son was 8, 9 at the time. He wanted to be in the Matilda production, and an adult had to be there with him the whole time. So I was like, I might as well audition. I didn't know much about the show. So I researched a little bit, and I was like, that would be a really fun role.
Yes.
And I got the role, and it was a blast.
It was-
Voice
it
change,
was it.
dressing in drag, singing, the exercise, the yelling at the kids.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
How about you?
Well, I would have to say my favorite was to be the Mad Hatter.
Yes.
That was my favorite.
Nice.
Clean up, move down.
You probably did something like that. I see it. I totally see it.
Without the tooth, it makes a big difference.
Oh my gosh.
I love
Oh my god.
That is perfect.
Beautiful.
I did not know that.
That was awesome.
Oh my
Right here.
gosh.
on our-
Yeah, very good.
Yes. We caught
How
it
about
on
you,
there.
Bill?
My favorite was probably when I played Lumiere in Beauty and the Beast, because
Oh,
I had done it
sure.
twice before that, and I knew that if I ever did it again as like one of the main characters, that was the one I would get to be. And it was at a company at the time where I felt really at home, and it was with a lot of people who were my best friends. And my current best friend, who's in Cape Cod working at an opera theater company doing a bunch of different productions, she was my Babette, which in the show Lumiere and Babette, he's the candelabra, she's the feather duster, and they have a love-hate relationship that's very French and very very playful. And so we got to really like explore our fun friendship through like playing doing different ad libs and improvs on stage with different stuff, and just getting to do that role was amazing because that was a company where they were very specific about, no, we have to make the new ball gowns for this show because it's a different century, and like
Right.
that was their very kind of stuff. So I was wearing like 3-inch like French heels and like carrying like these giant sticks, and was in like almost like a corseted like candelabra suit. So it was like very hard for me to do, and I had this like giant white wig on, like
That's
they
a
do with
tough
the
one.
French stuff.
Costume-wise.
And it was funny because I was like fixing my wig. They were like, "No, your wig needs to look like it's off because that's how they wore it back then. You could see the hairline." And I was like, "Really? You're that specific about it? That you want the hairline to show because that's how they wore it back then?" And it was like, it was so much to think about and do, but it was also just amazing to be in that kind of show because Beauty and the Beast is one of those Disney magic shows where you feel like
That's the way
where
Mary Poppins was.
you feel like you're just like a wizard waving your wand around anytime you do anything in the show
So
because you're pulling
3 of
people
us
in.
Disney shows.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess
Very
Matilda
nice,
is
very nice.
probably.
Matilda's
Pretty much,
probably,
it's as
yeah.
close, yeah.
It's Disney-esque show. Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to come and see you all.
JosephTickets.com.
Yeah.
JosephTickets.com.
JosephTickets.com.
And we're going to take one of ours.
There.
And we're going to put you right
Yay.
here.
Beautiful.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
we'll just keep you right there until.
Yay.
And I will be sitting in the audience of one of your productions.
Please come up and say hello
I'm
afterwards.
bringing flowers.
Yeah.
I know how this works. It's been a few years, but I know.
Oh man.
Well, we'll just tell you up front, there's at least 30 of us.
Yeah.
Get that debit card out. Yep.
That's okay. That does not scare me.
And the kids have tested the popcorn, so you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that's
That's good.
Yeah, and we have plenty of seats to sell because it's a pretty large house.
Yes.
It is a
And the
large
theater.
house.
I have
The size
been
of
in
the
that
stage,
theater,
yeah,
and
it's
it
pretty
is
large.
very nice.
It is.
It's a neat place. Just the atmosphere of
Yeah,
it is
historical.
And they've done a few
Yes.
little renovations for being an old theater that have been allowed us to be in there and do all the things we want to do. Most of the things we want to do.
neat. Yeah. Well, thank you for coming and sharing it
Thanks
with
for having
us.
us.
Thank you.
Definitely going to see you the 2nd or the 3rd for sure, positively.
JosephTickets.com.
JosephTickets.com. I'm going to put you on a couple of Facebook pages
Great.
Yes.
that we run, the 62040 and Granite City Moms. They're local, but that local loves
that's what
local.
we want.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
those
appreciate that
they're
very much.
reaching. Without, I don't even know what a community would be without the theater.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it's just another outlet, and I don't think it gets enough appreciation.
I agree.
Mhm.
I agree.
Or
We
benefactors.
change people and we teach things in ways that other people can't. It just can't be done in this way.
There are so many situations where I've heard the mom and kids want to go see a show, dad's going to go along. And you know what? Dad has a good
Good
time.
time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, or it's the kids. You know, do
Well,
we have to go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they sit there
love
and they're
it.
enthralled. They're like, man, can I do that?
And then they want, then they want to get on stage. They get the bug.
No.
We have
Yeah.
1 or 2 kids in this show that saw the show last year, the summer show, and this is their first show doing
Nice.
this production. So
Yeah.
it really is.
Or like my family last year, because I did live so far away. Last year was the first time most of them had ever seen me on stage in a production
Oh my gosh.
since I was very, very young.
Oh,
And so
Love
like one day I had like 2 family members come, and then the next day I had 4 more come. And then like the second weekend I had like a whole, like you said, 2 rows taken up with family, and they were like, "We didn't know you could do this." And I'm like, "Well, if you would have come to see me, you know." But then they're like, my director's like, "How many more family members do you
Yeah,
have?"
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So one more time, Joseph
And
Tickets.
Tickets.com.
Joseph
Yes.
and the amazing Technicolor
Yes.
Dreamcoat.
CurtainsUpTheater.com also.
We have a Facebook page too and a Facebook event. So if you want to tag us or share it, when you
I
post,
absolutely
you can do
will.
that.
Hang out with us while we say goodbye here for a few minutes.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure to meet you.
Absolutely.
I
Thank you
can't-
to both of you. And
Can't wait to meet the rest of the
GCRX, we're so
cast.
grateful for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you.
Okay, so guys, what we got coming up this following week for us is this Saturday. Plug our own theater real quick. This Saturday is our taco sell.
Tacos.
Tacos at Nick's Bar.
I don't think you can go wrong with tacos.
You cannot go wrong with it.
Like even if you mess them up, they're still good.
They're still good. And everybody loves Nick's Tacos. You know what you're going to get when you order them.
Yep.
And that is eat in, carry out, and delivery. And so that's real important. Support. We need that.
Might have to bring 2 rows of family.
Tacos,
You can deliver a taco right here.
Yes, absolutely.
You can order delivery.
And then August the 1st, between 6 and 8, you want to get there about 7 at 19th and Delmar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's 19th and Delmar. It's 19th and something. You can't miss it. It is the neon park lighting ceremony called It's Electric. And it's going to be food trucks, classic cars, band, and of course, lighting of our neon signs. So that's Granite City history for you, and you're not going to want to miss that. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week. With Chuck will be back, and we'll
Yes.
have Nick Drago with his conspiracy theories, and we're all going to learn a thing or two with that.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Curtains up.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Have a
Good
great
night.
night.
Good night.